has been blessed by God. Blessed so that we can shine His light of love, of mercy, of freedom to the entire world, from north to south and from east to west. Despite our differences and despite even our disagreements, we remain one nation under God. Aren't you thankful to be an American? When you hear the song from your branch of service, would you please rise and make your way forward, surrounding the auditorium? Air Force.
Stay where you're at. We would like to have you introduce yourself, branch of service, years you may have served, and so we'll start right here, brother.
Dan Barber, Coast Guard, 56 to 69.
Dave Holland, U.S. Air Force, 1984-1988.
Evan Pickman, U.S. Air Force, 2004 to 2008.
Paul Steffenhagen, 1958, 1961, United States Navy, for the USS Intrepid.
Jack Peters, U.S. Navy, 1974 to 2000.
Janet Beach, Navy, 73 to 76.
Thomas Sokowski, Navy, 69, 73.
Roy Charles, Army, 66 to 68, Vietnam.
Dan Conbrook, United States Army, 2006 to 2012.
Robert Meyer, Army, 1951 to 1955, Korean War.
Jonathan Medina, 2004 to 2012. Army.
Ron Bischoff, Army, Germany, 72 to 74.
Rogers Bishop, Marine Corps, 68 to 70.
Al Bischoff, United States Army, 67 to 69.
Howard Bigham, United States Army, 1959, 1962, 2.5 years in Germany.
Bob Foss, 67 to 73, United States Marine Corps.
Real deal, Gene Tanku, U.S. Army, 75 to 79, Sergeant E5, 11 Charlie 10, 81 millimeter mortar. Breaking, fire direction.
Tom Haley, U.S. Army, 2000-2005, Iraq, 2004.
Glenn Schultz, Vietnam, 66 to 69, helicopter roadrunner.
Curtis Andrews, 2001, present, U.S. Army.
Kenneth Beach, Corporal, U.S. Army, August 1951 to August 1953, Korea.
Steve Birch, U.S. Army National Guard, 1971 to 77, 152nd Engineering Battalion.
James Burdick, United States Air Force, Staff Sergeant, 71 to 79.
Dale Nudek, U.S. Navy Reserve, served 69 to 70, U.S. Navy Coastal Minesweeper.
Carol Kay, United States Marine Corps, 1967 and 1976, Vietnam veteran.
Russ Powell, Army, 68, 69, Vietnam.
Craig Landis, Corporal, United States Army, West Germany, 1969, 1971.
Harold Gossel, year 5758 in Fort Rucker, Alabama. That was the Army Aviation Headquarters.
Murray Mason, 1956 to 1958, Korea, U.S. Army.
Richard Payne, Army, Korea, 69-70.
Darlene Hunt, Army, 1988 to 2008.
Tim Marble, Coast Guard, 74, 75.
Ron Malicki, Korea, 2nd Infantry Division, 72 to 74.
Jerry Sewell, Army, 65, 67, Vietnam.
Cliff Tuttle, U.S. Army, 1959, 1962.
Peter Hutt, 1957 to 59, Army.
Joe Strobel, U.S. Army, stationed in Okinawa, 61, 63.
Charles Brozier, Corporal, United States Marine Corps, 1956 to 59.
Red James, U.S. Navy, 1960 to 1966, Vietnam.
Jim Weedman, United States Navy Seabees, 69 to 71.
Mike Fafar, U.S. Navy, 76 to 82.
Brett Ritchie, U.S. Navy Air, 64 to 67.
Richard Helmick, U.S. Navy Seabees, Vietnam, 1968, 1969, 1970.
Stephanie Tuller, Coast Guard, 2008, 2014.
Doug Rothleader, U.S. Air Force, 66 to 70, Udon, Thailand.
Bob Kaiser, Vietnam, 68, 69, Armament F-100s.
Chad Benjamin, Master Sergeant retired, U.S. Air Force, 1995 to 2017.
Ed Roseman, United States Air Force, 1976 2001.
Maria Roseman, U.S. Air Force, 1978 to 2000.
John Etzrott, U.S. Army Airborne, 1968 to 1974, Air Force Reserves, 1980 to 2007, retired.
Ray Herr, U.S. Air Force, 1996, 2016, retired.
Paul Phillips, U.S. Army, 70 through 72. We want to thank the veterans for being with us today. You may be seated, and we'll move on with our program. Our freedoms to live as we live, enjoy life as we try, worship God as we should, to have a Christian school as we do, is because we have American patriots, such as Chief Master Sergeant Herb, who is here with us today, who have put their lives in the line to serve and defend us. And I think sometimes when we talk about America, we forget that we are talking about us, individual people, our freedoms. Our speaker is a retired Chief Master Sergeant Raymond Herb. His own children are Mrs. White's, our own Mrs. White's grandchildren. He served in the Air Force, September 1996 to 2016. He's had 7 combat deployments: Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq. I don't know if I should read all of this, there's an awful lot to read. His primary military task was Air Force Special Warfare Operator with the qualification as a Joint Terminal Attack Controller. His mission was to plan, coordinate, control strategic airstrikes against enemy forces that were in close proximity to U.S. and Allied forces. He's also qualified in airdrop procedures, forward observation, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and naval gunfire control. There's more to be read here. He currently serves as a contractor for the United States Air Force in support of Joint Terminal Attack Control training. He also is currently enrolled in a doctoral program at Liberty University focused upon community care and counseling with a trauma cognate. This program emphasizes a biblical approach to caring for and counseling those with trauma-induced mental health issues. His dissertation is focused on spiritual strength and the recovery of moral injury. Please welcome Master Sergeant Herb today.
Speaking notes, and here these days, I think you guys had that whole thing memorized, didn't you? I didn't see you guys referencing any notes. We had the words, but they were behind you, so thank you for what you guys did. That was awesome, and definitely remarkable the way you guys put that together. So, a little thing about public speaking is there's a lot of people here. I'm not the best public speaker. So when my last assignment in the Air Force was down at the Pentagon at Headquarters Air Force. I was a staffer, I was a functional manager for an entire career field, and it was often that on a short notice you might be jumping off to brief a room full of generals, senators, congressmen, what have you, and you're trying to convince them why the military needs more money, more resources, and that. So you got to be quick and good. So when you first get there as a staffer, they put you through some training. And the first thing they do is they tell you if you're going to make a presentation, to have a good beginning and a good ending, and to keep them as close together as possible, right? That's what we're going to try and do here. A public speaking class I took recently as part of my doctoral program, the professor talked about starting off with a good joke. And he says it does two things. One, it loosens up the audience, kind of builds a little rapport with you and the audience. And number two, as a speaker, it loosens you up a little bit as well, gets you to relax. So I'm going to ask your help here, all right? I'm going to tell a couple of jokes. They're military jokes, all right? I'm in a room full of my brothers and sisters in arms, you know, all the different branches, and one of my favorite parts about being in the military is the camaraderie we had, regardless of the branch, yes. So I was an Air Force guy, but I spent my entire career stationed with the Army and deployed with the Army as a forward air controller. And so I was the token Air Force guy with a bunch of Army guys, and they used to pick on me relentlessly. I heard it all, chair force, flyboy, all that type of stuff. All right, so there's a lot of jokes, and I'll tell you, humor for any of the veterans in here, humor was a big part about getting through some of the stuff that we had to get through. So I've got a couple of jokes. There's a lot of kids here, so they're clean, kid-friendly jokes. Or as a chaplain friend of mine says, make sure they're church-friendly jokes, okay? So the first one I got, and this is for my Army brother out there, I myself got chewed out by a sergeant major once, I think for a mustache out of rags or something to that effect on deployment. But so there's this crusty old sergeant major, and he's sitting there and he's chewing out one of his soldiers, okay? And he's really going to town on him really good, letting him have it. And this sergeant major's notorious. He's well known for having a short temper and really laying into his guys. So everybody they saw him coming and they walked this way, all right? So they tried to avoid him. So he gets done chewing out this soldier, and he starts to walk away, and he turns around and he goes, now I know that you're probably one of those guys that's going to be dancing on my grave after I'm gone. And this young soldier goes, nope, not me, Sergeant Major, because I made a promise to myself, when I get out of the Army, I'm never standing in a line again. So once again, I'm an Air Force guy. The Air Force right now is suffering with a shortage on pilots. The reason being is all the commercial airlines keep snagging them up as quick as the Air Force can make them. So, Chief of Staff of the Air Force said, all right, I'm in charge of this. I'm going to take some initiative. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to help with recruiting. So he's walking around the DC area where he's stationed at the Pentagon, and he's looking for potential recruits for pilots. So he comes along and he sees these two strapping men. They're twins, actually. So he approaches the first one and goes, I'm Chief of Staff of the Air Force. I need men like you for the Air Force. Tell me, what can you do for the Air Force? And the guy replies, well, I'm a pilot. And Chief of Staff of the Air Force goes, oh, great, sign you up. I happen to know the guy that does the paperwork, and we'll get you in quicker than me. Now he turns to his twin brother and goes, what can you bring to the Air Force? And he goes, well, sir, I split wood. And he goes, say that again? He goes, I split wood. He goes, well, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of need for people to split wood in the Air Force in the 21st century. And he goes, but General, you just took my brother. And he goes, yeah, but your brother's a pilot. And he goes, yeah, I split the wood so he can pilot. Anyways, like I said, humor was a big part of getting me through some of the stuff in the military. So a little bit about me. I think a lot of it was just read there, but I was the token Air Force guy on the battlefield control and airstrikes for the Army. Did quite a few deployments, and then I was apparently good at it, so they chose me to go train our foreign allies on how to do it. I spent a lot of time in Slovenia, Latvia, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, doing a lot of training, because once they saw the awesome power that the Air Force can bring on the battlefield, especially in a combat situation, they wanted to know how to do it. So we were training them up on how to do that. So as an Air Force guy, and we're here kind of representing Veterans Day, I wanted to read to you a fellow Air Force Special Warfare operator, his Medal of Honor citation. This was Airman First Class William H. Pitzenberger. He posthumous was awarded the Medal of Honor, and here's his citation. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life, above and beyond the call of duty, Airman First Class Pitzenberger distinguished himself by extreme valor on 11 April 1996 near Cam Mai, Republic of Vietnam, while assigned as a pararescue crew member, Detachment 6, 38th Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Squadron. On that day, Airman Pitzenberger was aboard a rescue helicopter responding to a call for evacuation of casualties incurred in an ongoing firefight between elements of the United States Army's 1st Infantry Division and a sizable enemy force approximately 35 miles east of Saigon. With complete disregard for personal safety, Airman Pitzenberger volunteered to ride a hoist more than 100 feet through the jungle to the ground. On the ground, he organized and coordinated rescue efforts, cared for the wounded, prepared casualties for evacuation, and ensured that the recovery operation continued in a smooth and orderly fashion. Through his personal efforts, evacuation of the wounded was greatly expedited. As each of the 9 casualties evacuated today were recovered, Airman Pitzenberger refused evacuation in order to get more wounded soldiers to safety. After several pickups, one of the 2 rescue helicopters involved in the evacuation was struck by enemy ground fire and was forced to leave the scene for an emergency landing. Airman Pitzenberger stayed behind on the ground to perform medical duties. Shortly thereafter, the area came under sniper and mortar fire. During a subsequent attempt to evacuate the site, American forces came under heavy assault by a large Viet Cong force. When the enemy launched the assault, evacuation was called off, and Airman Pitzenberger took up arms with his besieged infantrymen. He courageously resisted the enemy, braving intense gunfire to gather and distribute vital ammunition to American defenders. As the battle raged on, he repeatedly exposed himself to hostile enemy fire to care for the wounded, pulled them out of the line of fire, and returned fire whenever he could, during which time he was wounded 3 times. Despite his wounds, he valiantly fought on, simultaneously treating as many wounded as possible. In the vicious fighting that followed, the American forces suffered 80% casualties as their perimeter was breached and Airman Pitzenberger was fatally wounded. Airman Pitzenberger exposed himself to almost certain death by staying on the ground and perished while saving the lives of numerous wounded infantrymen. His bravery and determination exemplify the highest professional standards and traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. So Airman Pitzenberger was a U.S. Air Force pararescueman, and the pararescue motto is, "These things we do that others may live." And I think on that day, Airman Pitzenberger definitely exemplified that motto. I want you to keep in mind that theme rescue here, because it's something I'm going to build to. So I'm working on a degree right now, and my bachelor's was in history, my master's was in history, and some might say, why a doctorate in counseling? Well, I have to say, because it's the amazing grace of God that changed my trajectory in the past year and a half. 2 very close friends of mine, fellow veterans, one of which I attended basic training with, went on to my special warfare training with, and then did a couple of deployments with, was stationed with, committed suicide. Another close friend of mine, one who I did my very last deployment with and walked through the terrain of Afghanistan with, committed suicide recently as well. And then I personally went through some of my own struggles. For anybody in the military, you're familiar with the term rucksack. It's a big, heavy backpack that you carry. I think with each deployment, with each situation you go through, and each of those life and death situations, and the things that you see, we talk about it, it's like putting a rock in your rucksack. And the more you pile them up, they just keep piling up, and before you know it, you can't really move. Anybody who's ever moved out with a heavy rucksack knows what I'm talking about. So I went through some of my own struggles recently, and like I said, by the grace of God, He spoke to me. He gave me a new mission, something that, it was just a passion that grew inside of me like nothing I've ever experienced before. And it's a lot of hard work, working full time as a contractor for the Air Force.